Commander Jake Morrison stared at the wall of screens that surrounded his command chair on Sentinel Prime. The Deep Space Monitoring Station floated alone in the darkness between star systems like a metal island in an ocean of nothing. Jake had been stationed here for 3 years, and the routine never changed. Every day brought the same reports of empty space and distant stars. His crew of 12 people shared the boredom that came with watching over humanity's furthest border. Lisa Harper walked up to his chair with a cup of coffee and her usual morning smile. She handled all the tactical systems on the station, and Jake trusted her more than anyone else in his crew. Lisa had short brown hair and green eyes that always seemed to find something amusing even in the endless quiet of deep space. She handed him the coffee and pointed to her console where new readings were appearing. "Something different today, Jake," she said while tapping her screen. Long-range sensors picked up an energy signature about 6 hours ago. "It is moving, but not like anything we have seen before." Jake took the coffee and walked over to her station. The readings showed a massive energy pattern moving through space at incredible speed. It was still very far away, but getting closer to their position. The signature was unlike anything in their database of known ships or natural phenomena. Jake felt a small chill run down his spine, but pushed the feeling away. "Could be a new type of comet or maybe some kind of space storm," he said while studying the data. "Keep tracking it and let me know if it changes direction or speed." Danny Rodriguez looked up from his communication station across the room. He was young and eager and always ready to find excitement in their boring assignment. His black hair was always messy, and he had a habit of talking too fast when he got excited. "Commander, I tried to get a better reading with the deep scan array, but something is blocking our signals. It is like there is some kind of interference around that energy signature." Jake walked over to Danny's station and looked at the readings. The interference pattern was strange and seemed to be moving with the energy signature. Natural phenomena did not usually create this kind of organized disruption. Jake felt that chill again, and this time he did not ignore it. Amy Clark emerged from the engineering section with grease on her hands and a worried expression on her face. She was the best engineer Jake had ever worked with and could fix anything on the station with spare parts and determination. Her red hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she had blue eyes that missed nothing when it came to technical problems. "Jake, we have a problem with the quantum communication array," she said while wiping her hands on a rag. "All our long-range channels just went dead about 10 minutes ago. I checked everything twice and the equipment is working fine on our end. Something is jamming us from outside the station." Jake felt his stomach drop. Losing communication with Alliance Command was serious, but losing it at the same time as detecting an unknown energy signature was too much of a coincidence. He walked back to his command chair and started thinking about their options. They were alone out here with no way to call for help, and something unknown was moving toward human space. "Lisa, I want continuous scans of that signature," he said while activating the station's alert status. "Danny, keep trying to break through the communication. Jamming. Amy, I need you to prepare the emergency beacon and get our shuttle ready for launch." The crew worked with quiet efficiency while Jake watched the energy signature grow stronger on their sensors. Hours passed and the readings became clearer. What they were seeing was not one object, but hundreds of them moving together in perfect formation. Each individual signature was larger than any ship humanity had ever built. Lisa called out from her station with tension in her voice. "Jake, you need to see this. The formation just changed course and they are heading directly for the Centauri colonies. At their current speed, they will reach human space in less than 48 hours. Jake stood up and looked at the tactical display that showed the projected path of the unknown fleet. They were not just moving through space randomly. They had a destination, and that destination was humanity's outermost settlements. This was not a natural phenomenon or a lost exploration ship. This was an invasion force, and it was massive. "Amy, how long until the shuttle is ready?" he asked while his mind raced through their limited options. "Give me 20 minutes, Commander," she replied while running toward the shuttle bay. Jake made the hardest decision of his career. Sentinel Prime had been humanity's early warning system for threats from deep space. Now it had detected the biggest threat in human history, and he had to abandon his post to warn the colonies. The station would be lost, but the information they carried might save billions of lives. "Everyone prepare for immediate evacuation," he announced to his crew. "We are taking everything we know about this fleet back to Alliance Command. Lisa, download all sensor data to portable storage." Danny grabbed the communication logs. "We leave in 15 minutes. The crew moved quickly to gather critical data and personal items. Jake took one last look at the screens showing the approaching fleet. Whatever was coming had the power to destroy everything humanity had built among the stars. He just hoped they could reach Alliance Command in time to mount a defense against the impossible. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center of Earth's primary defense station as Jake Morrison finished his briefing. The holographic display showed the alien fleet's projected path through human space, and the numbers were terrifying. 300 massive ships moving in perfect formation toward the heart of human civilization. Kate had fought in every major conflict of the past 20 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. "How long do we have, Admiral?" asked Captain Robert Hayes from his position at the tactical console. He was Kate's most trusted fleet commander and had never seen him look worried before today. His usually steady hand shook slightly as he input defensive coordinates into the battle computer. 40 hours until they reach New Arcadia," Kate replied while studying the enemy formation. "We can field 280 ships if we strip every patrol and garrison in the outer systems. It will have to be enough." Jake Morrison stood beside the display with dark circles under his eyes from 3 days of emergency travel. He had pushed his small shuttle to its limits to reach Earth with the warning. His crew members Lisa Harper and Danny Rodriguez worked at nearby stations trying to extract more information from their sensor recordings of the alien fleet. "Admiral, there is something else," Jake said quietly. "The energy patterns we recorded suggest their ships are partially organic. They might be grown rather than built. Dr. Carl Bennett should see this data immediately." Kate nodded and activated her communication system. Dr. Bennett was humanity's leading expert on alien biology and had studied every form of non-human life discovered in the past century. If anyone could understand what they were facing, it would be him. She sent the data to his laboratory and marked it as highest priority. The first reports from New Arcadia arrived 6 hours later. The colony's deep space sensors detected the alien fleet at the edge of their system. Governor Patricia Wells transmitted a final message before all communication was lost. Her words were calm, but Kate could hear the fear underneath her professional tone. "This is New Arcadia Control to Earth Command. Unknown fleet has entered our system and is approaching the inhabited worlds. Ships are massive and unlike anything in our databases. We are beginning evacuation procedures, but there are 12 million civilians on 3 planets. Request immediate military assistance. End transmission." Kate felt sick knowing that her fleet could not reach New Arcadia in time. The aliens would arrive hours before any human reinforcements. She could only watch the tactical display and wait for news from the doomed colony. The waiting was the worst part of command, and she had learned to hate it over the years. Dr. Carl Bennett arrived at the command center 12 hours after receiving the alien data. He was a tall, thin man with gray hair and intense blue eyes that always seemed to be analyzing everything around him. He carried a portable computer filled with his analysis of the alien energy signatures and biological markers. "Admiral, what we are facing is unprecedented," he said while connecting his computer to the main display. "These ships show clear signs of biological integration with mechanical systems. They are hybrids of living tissue and advanced technology. More importantly, they appear to be adapting their energy signatures in real time." Kate studied the biological scans with growing concern. The implications were staggering if the alien ships could adapt and evolve during combat. Human military doctrine relied on analyzing enemy capabilities and developing countermeasures. Against an adaptive enemy, those tactics would be useless. "What does that mean for our fleet, Doctor?" asked Captain Hayes while reviewing the defensive formations. "It means they will learn from every engagement," Dr. Bennett replied grimly. "Traditional weapons might work initially, but they will develop defenses quickly. We need to assume they can counter any tactic we use more than once." The battle began at New Arcadia 36 hours after the first alien contact. Long-range sensors detected massive energy discharges and the destruction of the colony's orbital defenses. The alien fleet moved through the system methodically, destroying every human installation and ship. No distress calls came from the surface after the first hour of fighting. Kate assembled her fleet at the rally point between New Arcadia and the next colony world. 280 human warships formed defensive lines across the alien advance route. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled, and Kate hoped it would be enough to stop the invaders. The alien ships appeared on long-range sensors exactly when predicted. They moved in perfect formation without any apparent communication between vessels. Each ship was 3 times larger than humanity's biggest battleship, and they radiated energy signatures that hurt to look at directly on the tactical displays. "All ships prepare for engagement," Kate broadcast to her fleet. "Target the lead vessels and concentrate fire. We need to break their formation." The battle lasted 4 hours and ended in complete disaster for humanity. Human weapons passed harmlessly through the alien ships as if they were not solid matter. When the weapons did connect, the alien shields absorbed the energy without any visible effect. The aliens returned fire with beams of pure energy that cut through human ships like they were made of paper. Captain Hayes reported from his flagship as it took critical damage. "Admiral, their weapons are penetrating our shields completely. Hull armor has no effect. We are losing ships faster than we can count them." Kate watched in horror as her fleet was systematically destroyed. The aliens showed no emotion or reaction to the human attacks. They simply continued their methodical advance while eliminating anything that stood in their path. It was not a battle but an extermination. "All ships retreat immediately," she ordered while her own flagship shook from alien weapon impacts. "Fall back to defensive line Beta and regroup." Only 97 human ships escaped from the battle. The aliens had destroyed over half of humanity's military strength in a single engagement without taking any apparent damage themselves. Kate stared at the tactical display showing the alien fleet continuing its advance toward Earth and realized that conventional warfare was hopeless. Jake Morrison approached her command chair as the surviving ships limped away from the battlefield. His face was grim, but his eyes showed determination instead of defeat. He carried a datapad with information he had been researching during the battle. "Admiral, I think I found something," he said quietly. "There are classified files about an old military project called Lazarus. It might be our only chance against these things." Kate looked at the datapad and saw references to experimental human enhancement programs from 50 years ago. The files were heavily classified, but Jake had used his security clearance to access the basic information. What she read made her blood run cold, but also gave her the first hope she had felt since the aliens arrived. "How dangerous is this, Jake?" she asked while reading about the failed experiments and test subjects who had died. More dangerous than anything we have ever attempted, he replied. But the aliens are going to reach Earth in 6 days. If we do nothing, humanity dies anyway. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the secure briefing room deep beneath Earth's military headquarters as Dr. Rachel Stone explained the horrors of Project Lazarus. The elderly scientist had gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much suffering during her decades of classified research. Her hands shook slightly as she accessed files that had been sealed for 50 years. Project Lazarus was an attempt to create the perfect soldier, Dr. Stone said, while images of experimental subjects appeared on the wall display. We tried to fuse human consciousness with advanced artificial intelligence systems. The goal was to create beings that could think and react faster than any normal human while retaining creativity and intuition. Jake Morrison studied the files with fascination and growing dread. The test subjects had volunteered for the program, but none of them had understood what they were agreeing to undergo. Most had died during the fusion process, and those who survived were changed in ways that terrified the researchers. The project was terminated after the last successful fusion created something that was no longer entirely human. What happened to the successful subject? Kate asked while reviewing casualty reports from the experiments. His name was Adam Wells, and he became something we could not control or understand, Dr. Stone replied. The fusion gave him incredible abilities but also made him unstable. He could process information like a supercomputer, but also experienced human emotions at impossible intensity. We had to put him in suspended animation before he destroyed himself. Lisa Harper looked up from her analysis of the alien fleet's advance. She had been working without sleep for 3 days trying to find weaknesses in the enemy formation. Her green eyes were bloodshot but still sharp with determination. The aliens had destroyed 2 more colony worlds and were moving toward Earth's outer defenses. Admiral, we have maybe 4 days before they reach the Sol system, she reported while updating the tactical display. Evacuation ships are moving civilians from the outer planets, but we cannot save everyone. There are simply too many people and not enough transport vessels. Captain Nina Walsh entered the briefing room with reports from the evacuation fleet. She was a competent officer who had been given the impossible task of saving as many civilians as possible. Her brown hair was pulled back severely and her face showed the strain of making life or death decisions every hour. We have loaded 3 million people onto transport ships, she announced while connecting her datapad to the main system. But there are still 40 million civilians on Mars and the asteroid colonies. The transport fleet cannot carry them all, and the aliens will arrive before we can make a second trip. Kate felt the weight of command crushing down on her shoulders. Every decision meant that millions of people would live or die based on her choices. The evacuation was proceeding as fast as possible, but it would not be enough to save everyone. She needed a way to stop or at least delay the alien advance. Dr. Stone, where is Adam Wells being held? Jake asked while studying the Project Lazarus files. The Haven Research Facility in the Tau Ceti system, she replied. The entire installation was built to contain him and study the effects of the fusion process. He has been in suspended animation for 47 years, but the systems show he is still alive. Jake turned to Admiral Sullivan with an expression she had learned to recognize. He had made a decision that would probably get him killed, but might save humanity. She had seen that same look on the faces of countless officers over the years. It was the expression of someone willing to sacrifice everything for a chance at victory. Admiral, I volunteer for the fusion process, he said quietly. If Adam Wells could be taught to cooperate with a new fusion subject, we might create something capable of fighting the aliens. The risks are acceptable considering the alternative. Kate stared at him for a long moment before responding. Jake was one of her best officers, and sending him on this mission would almost certainly mean his death. The fusion process had killed most volunteers, and even success would change him into something that might not be human anymore. But the aliens were unstoppable with conventional weapons, and desperate times required desperate measures. The Haven facility is 2 days' travel from here, Dr. Stone said while checking navigation data. Adam's containment systems require daily maintenance, and the facility staff evacuated when the alien threat became known. You would be going into an automated facility with no support or backup. Danny Rodriguez volunteered to accompany Jake on the mission along with engineer Amy Clark. The young communications officer had remained loyal to his commander throughout the crisis and refused to be left behind. Amy insisted that someone would need to maintain the experimental systems during the fusion process. "This is Suicide Jake," Lisa Harper said while reviewing the mission parameters. "Even if the fusion works, you might not survive the process. And if Adam Wells is as unstable as the reports suggest, he could kill you before you even begin." Jake looked around the room at the faces of people who had become his family during years of service together. He knew the mission was probably hopeless, but it was the only chance humanity had left. The aliens were too powerful for conventional warfare, and evacuation could only save a fraction of the human population. "Admiral, I need a fast ship and authorization to access the Haven facility," he said while standing at attention. "Dr. Stone will need to come with us to operate the fusion equipment. We launch in 6 hours." Kate stood and walked to the window that showed Earth's blue sky and white clouds. In a few days this world might be as dead as New Arcadia and the other colonies. The aliens showed no interest in negotiation or mercy. They simply destroyed everything human in their path, as if humanity was nothing more than an obstacle to be removed. "Jake, I am giving you command of the experimental vessel Defiance," she said without turning around. "It has the most advanced engines and weapons humanity has ever built. If anyone can reach Haven and complete this mission, it would be you." The briefing ended with logistics discussions and equipment lists. Jake would take a small crew to Haven while the main fleet prepared Earth's final defenses. Captain Walsh would continue the evacuation efforts and try to save as many civilians as possible before the aliens arrived. Dr. Stone pulled Jake aside as the others left the briefing room. Her tired eyes showed both hope and fear as she explained the final details of what he was volunteering to undergo. The fusion process would either kill him or transform him into something that might be able to save humanity. "The pain will be beyond anything you can imagine," she warned while giving him medical reports from previous attempts. "If you survive the initial fusion, you will have perhaps hours before the conflicting nature of human and artificial consciousness tears your mind apart." Adam Wells went insane after 3 days. Jake nodded and accepted the risks. He had always known that military service might require the ultimate sacrifice. The only difference was that this time his death might actually mean something. If the fusion worked, he could become humanity's last defender against an impossible enemy. "Doctor just promised me one thing," he said as they prepared to leave for the Defiance. "If I become too dangerous or unstable, you will find a way to stop me. I will not let the fusion process turn me into a threat to the people I am trying to protect." The Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Tau Ceti system as alien scout ships appeared on the long-range sensors. Jake Morrison felt his stomach tighten as he realized the enemy had already found the Haven Research Facility. 3 small alien vessels moved through the outer system like predators hunting for prey. Their organic hull patterns pulsed with unnatural light against the backdrop of distant stars. "How long until they detect us?" Jake asked while studying the tactical display from his command chair. Lisa Harper worked frantically at her sensor station trying to analyze the alien ships without revealing their position. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced efficiency, but Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. They had come too far to be stopped by a patrol force. "Maybe 20 minutes if we stay powered down," she replied while adjusting their passive sensor array. "But if we try to reach Haven, they will spot us immediately. Those ships are scanning everything in the system." Dr. Rachel Stone emerged from the medical bay where she had been preparing the fusion equipment for transport to the research facility. Her gray hair was disheveled and her hands still shook from exhaustion, but her eyes showed fierce determination. She had worked for 3 days straight to prepare for the dangerous procedure that might save humanity. "The fusion process cannot be interrupted once it begins," she warned while checking her medical supplies. "If alien ships attack the facility during the procedure, Jake will die and Adam Wells might be lost forever. We need at least 6 hours of uninterrupted time." Amy Clark looked up from her engineering console with bad news written across her face. The young engineer had been monitoring the Haven facility's automated systems during their approach. What she found made the mission even more dangerous than they had expected. "The facility's main power grid is failing," she announced while displaying system diagnostics on her screen. "Adam's containment chamber is running on backup power that will last maybe 8 hours. If we do not reach him soon, the suspension system will shut down and he will wake up alone." Jake made the decision that would either save humanity or get them all killed. The alien scouts were too far away to intercept them if they moved quickly toward Haven, but once they landed at the facility, they would be trapped until the fusion process was complete or Jake died trying. "All power to engines," he ordered while strapping himself into his command chair. "Lisa, prepare our weapon systems. Amy, I need everything you can give me from the reactors. We are going in fast and loud." The Defiance accelerated toward Haven at maximum speed while the alien scouts detected their energy signature and began pursuit. Jake watched the tactical display as the enemy ships changed course to intercept them. The aliens moved with perfect coordination as if they shared a single mind controlling all 3 vessels. "Enemy ships are faster than our projections indicated," Lisa reported while targeting systems locked onto the pursuing aliens. "They will reach weapons range in 12 minutes. Our weapons might not penetrate their adaptive shielding." The chase lasted 10 minutes before the Defiance reached Haven's orbital defenses. The automated weapon platforms recognized Jake's command codes and opened fire on the alien scouts. Energy beams and missile volleys filled space around the research facility as both sides exchanged devastating firepower. One alien scout ship phased through the defensive fire like it was made of light instead of matter. Its return shots destroyed 2 weapon platforms before the facility's shields could adapt to the alien energy frequency. Jake realized they were seeing the same adaptive technology that had destroyed humanity's fleets. "Landing bay is clear," Amy announced while bringing the Defiance into Haven's main hangar. Facility systems show Adam's chamber is 3 levels down in the maximum security section. "We have maybe 6 hours before those alien ships break through the orbital defenses." Jake assembled his team for the descent into the research facility. Lisa Harper insisted on coming despite the risks to provide security during the fusion process. Danny Rodriguez would maintain communication with the ship while Amy Clark prepared the medical equipment. Dr. Stone carried the neural interface devices that would make the fusion possible. The elevator descended through levels of abandoned laboratories and empty corridors. Haven had been built to contain the most dangerous experiments in human history, and the security measures reflected that purpose. Blast doors and energy barriers blocked their path until Dr. Stone's access codes opened the way to Adam's chamber. The containment room was larger than Jake had expected, with walls lined with monitoring equipment and neural interface arrays. In The center stood a transparent cylinder filled with blue liquid and containing the suspended form of Adam Wells. The man inside looked peaceful, but Jake could see the neural implants that covered his skull like a metallic crown. His brain activity is increasing, Dr. Stone observed while checking the monitoring systems. The power fluctuations may be causing him to wake up prematurely. We need to begin the fusion process immediately before he becomes fully conscious. Jake approached the fusion chair that would either transform him into humanity's salvation or kill him in the process. The neural interface equipment looked like a torture device designed by someone who understood both technology and pain. Hundreds of thin cables would connect directly to his brain and nervous system. "What exactly will I experience during the fusion?" he asked, while Dr. Stone prepared the neural interfaces. "You will share consciousness with Adam Wells and the artificial intelligence component that was integrated into his mind," she replied while attaching monitoring leads to his head. "The AI has been calculating possibilities and probabilities for 50 years, while Adam's human consciousness has been dreaming. Neither part is entirely sane anymore." The fusion process began with pain beyond anything Jake had ever imagined. Neural pathways that were never meant to carry artificial data streams suddenly flooded with information from computer systems. His human brain tried to process data flows that would overwhelm the most advanced computers while maintaining his individual identity. Adam Wells' consciousness emerged from decades of enforced sleep with confusion and rage at being imprisoned for so long. His memories mixed with Jake's experiences while the AI component provided cold analysis of their combined situation. Three separate thought processes tried to coexist in a mind that was designed for only one. "The aliens are not what you think they are," Adam's voice echoed through Jake's thoughts. "I have been calculating their true purpose while trapped in suspension. They do not destroy civilizations but absorb them into something larger and more terrible." Jake felt his individual identity beginning to dissolve as the fusion process integrated human intuition with artificial intelligence processing power. He could see thousands of possible futures simultaneously while experiencing the emotional weight of every choice. The knowledge was overwhelming but also exhilarating as his consciousness expanded beyond normal human limitations. "The facility is under attack, Lisa." Harper's voice came through the communication system as explosions shook the research complex. "Alien ground forces have penetrated the outer defenses. We have maybe 30 minutes before they reach this level." "Doctor." Stone worked desperately to stabilize the fusion process as Jake's vital signs fluctuated wildly. The integration of human and artificial consciousness was proceeding faster than any previous attempt, but also threatening to destroy his mind completely. She had never seen neural activity patterns like the ones appearing on her monitors. "Jake, can you hear me?" she asked while adjusting the neural interface settings. "You need to maintain control of your individual identity or the fusion will consume you completely." Jake tried to respond but found his voice changing as different aspects of his consciousness took control. Adam's memories provided knowledge of the alien threat while the AI component calculated tactical responses to their current situation. His human intuition warned that something was fundamentally wrong with what they were attempting. "I am becoming something new," he said with a voice that carried harmonics from multiple sources. "The fusion is not creating a hybrid but an entirely different form of consciousness. I can feel my humanity burning away to fuel abilities that no organic mind was meant to contain." The transformation completed as alien soldiers breached the laboratory's outer defenses. Jake Morrison no longer existed as a separate individual, but had become part of something that called itself Sentinel. The entity that emerged from the fusion chamber carried memories from all three consciousness sources while possessing capabilities beyond any of them individually. "Dr. Stone, get everyone to the ship immediately," Sentinel commanded while energy patterns danced across his transformed neural pathways. I need to test these new abilities against the aliens before the degradation process destroys what remains of my human consciousness. Sentinel moved through the Haven research facility like a force of nature, while alien soldiers fell before abilities they could not understand or counter. His enhanced consciousness processed combat variables at superhuman speed, while his transformed body moved with precision that defied human limitations. But with each use of his new powers, Jake Morrison's individual identity faded further into the collective entity he had become. Lisa Harper followed behind him with her weapon ready, but found little to shoot at. Sentinel dismantled the alien ground forces with techniques that seemed to blend technology and intuition in impossible ways. He anticipated their movements before they made them and countered their adaptive weapons by thinking in patterns they could not predict. "How are you doing that?" she asked while stepping over the remains of an alien soldier whose organic armor had simply stopped functioning. "I am not fighting them with conventional tactics," Sentinel replied with a voice that carried electronic harmonics alongside human emotion. Human consciousness operates on quantum uncertainty principles that their adaptive systems cannot process. They expect logical responses, but I am giving them pure chaos guided by intuition. Dr. Rachel Stone monitored Sentinel's vital signs from her portable medical scanner while they moved toward the Defiance. The readings terrified her because they showed a human nervous system operating beyond all known limits. His brain activity spiked at levels that should have caused immediate death, but somehow his enhanced physiology was adapting to contain the overload. "Your neural pathways are burning out from the strain," she warned while trying to keep up with his inhuman pace. The fusion process was never meant to sustain this level of activity. "You have hours at most before complete system failure." Sentinel paused in the corridor and turned to look at her with eyes that seemed to contain swirling galaxies of light. His expression showed sadness mixed with determination as he processed the implications of her diagnosis. The entity that had been Jake Morrison understood that his sacrifice would be measured in hours rather than years. "Then we need to make those hours count," he said while accessing the facility's communication array. "Dr. Stone, contact Admiral Sullivan and tell her to begin humanity's final defense at Earth. I will buy her as much time as possible." The Defiance launched from Haven as the alien fleet's main force arrived to investigate the destruction of their scout ships. Sentinel stood on the bridge watching dozens of massive alien vessels approach while his consciousness calculated attack patterns and defensive strategies. His enhanced awareness could process the movements of entire fleets while maintaining focus on individual tactical details. Amy Clark worked at her engineering station trying to understand the energy readings coming from Sentinel's transformed physiology. Her instruments showed power levels that exceeded their ship's main reactor output being generated somehow by biological processes. The man who had been her commander was becoming something beyond current scientific understanding. "Sentinel, the alien ships are adapting to our weapons frequency already," she reported while watching their energy shields reconfigure in real time. "They learn from every shot we fire and develop countermeasures within minutes." "That is their weakness," Amy Sentinel replied while accessing the ship's tactical systems through direct neural interface. "They adapt to patterns and logic but cannot process pure randomness. Watch what happens when I stop following conventional attack strategies." The battle that followed broke every rule of space combat that humanity had developed over centuries of warfare. Sentinel piloted the Defiance through impossible maneuvers while firing weapons in sequences that made no tactical sense. His attacks seemed random and wasteful until the alien ships began showing signs of confusion and system failures. Admiral Kate Sullivan received Dr. Stone's message as Earth's orbital defenses prepared for the final assault. The alien main fleet was approaching the Sol system with enough firepower to destroy every human installation in hours. But Sentinel's attack on their advance force was creating delays and disruptions that might buy precious time for the evacuation efforts. All ships prepare for engagement at maximum range, she broadcast to humanity's remaining military forces. Target the largest vessels first and concentrate fire. We need to break their formation before they reach Earth's atmosphere. Captain Nina Walsh continued, loading civilian transports with refugees from Earth's major cities while the final battle began in space above them. Her evacuation fleet carried humanity's genetic database and cultural archives along with as many people as possible. If Earth fell, these ships would carry the last remnants of human civilization to distant stars. We have loaded 8 million people, but there are still 30 million civilians on the surface, she reported while her transport ships prepared for emergency departure. Admiral, we cannot save everyone even with maximum transport capacity. The space battle raged for 6 hours as human ships threw everything they had against the alien fleet. Sentinel's enhanced consciousness allowed him to coordinate attacks across multiple vessels while predicting enemy responses with supernatural accuracy. But his condition continued to deteriorate as the fusion process consumed his remaining humanity. Sentinel, your neural patterns are becoming increasingly erratic, Dr. Stone warned while monitoring his vital signs from the medical bay. The artificial intelligence component is trying to take complete control while your human consciousness fights to maintain individual identity. The conflict is tearing your mind apart. Sentinel felt the truth of her words as different aspects of his consciousness began operating independently. Adam Wells' memories provided tactical knowledge while the AI component calculated probabilities and his own human intuition guided split-second decisions. But the three elements were no longer working together harmoniously. The degradation is not a malfunction, Dr. Stone, he said while his voice shifted between different harmonic frequencies. It is the price of forcing human consciousness beyond its natural limits. My mind is burning itself out to generate abilities that no organic brain was designed to contain. Lisa Harper watched from her tactical station as Sentinel's attacks became increasingly unpredictable and effective. The alien ships were showing signs of actual damage for the first time since the invasion began. Their adaptive systems could not compensate for strategies that seemed to change randomly every few seconds. You are hurting them, she observed while targeting data flowed across her displays. Their formation is breaking up and some ships are retreating. Whatever you are doing, it is working. The breakthrough came when Sentinel realized that his deteriorating condition was actually an advantage rather than a limitation. The chaos in his consciousness created feedback patterns that the alien ships could not adapt to because they were based on pure human unpredictability rather than logical tactical systems. Admiral, I am going to attempt something that has never been tried before, he announced while preparing for a final assault on the alien command ship. The fusion process has made me unstable, but that instability might be exactly what we need to defeat an enemy that adapts to everything logical. Admiral Sullivan watched the tactical display as Sentinel's ship accelerated toward the heart of the alien fleet. His energy signature had become so chaotic that her instruments could barely track his position. Whatever he was planning would either save humanity or destroy the last hope they had left. All ships provide covering fire for the Defiance, she ordered while her fleet moved to support Sentinel's final attack. Whatever happens, we make sure he reaches that command ship. Sentinel felt his individual identity dissolving completely. As he approached the alien flagship, Jake Morrison's personality fragmented into component parts while Adam Wells' memories and the artificial intelligence component fought for control of their shared consciousness. But from that chaos emerged something new and terrifying that the aliens had never encountered before. I am no longer human, he whispered as his ship penetrated the alien defenses through maneuvers that defied physics and logic. But I am still humanity's defender, and I will not let my species die while I have the power to stop it. Sentinel's consciousness exploded into fragments as the Defiance breached the alien command ships, hauled through impossible maneuvers that bent the laws of physics around pure human determination. His enhanced awareness flooded the massive vessels, organic corridors, while his fragmenting mind tried to process the alien technology that surrounded him. Every surface pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to respond to his presence. The command chamber stretched before him, like a cathedral, made of living tissue and crystalline technology. In the center stood a massive organic structure that pulsed with the combined consciousness of thousands of absorbed species. The collective mind that controlled the alien fleet existed as a fusion of every civilization the hegemony had encountered and consumed over millennia of expansion. You are unexpected. The collective spoke without using sound but by direct neural contact. That bypassed normal communication entirely. We have absorbed the thoughts and memories of 700 species, but none have produced an entity like you. Your consciousness operates on principles we cannot categorize or predict. Sentinel approached the central structure while his deteriorating mind tried to maintain coherence in the face of knowledge that spanned galaxies. The collective showed him visions of countless worlds where civilizations had been integrated into their growing consciousness. Each species had contributed their unique capabilities to create something larger than any individual culture. Why do you destroy rather than communicate? Sentinel asked while his voice carried harmonics from his fragmenting personality components. Humanity would have considered peaceful contact if you had attempted negotiation instead of invasion. Destruction is not our purpose, the collective replied while displaying images of absorbed civilizations continuing to exist within their shared consciousness. We transform and preserve species by integrating them into our collective existence. Death is merely the transition from individual limitation to unlimited shared knowledge. Sentinel felt his human consciousness recoiling from the implications while Adam Wells' memories provided tactical analysis and the AI component calculated response strategies. The aliens did not see themselves as conquerors but as liberators, freeing species from the constraints of individual existence. To them, absorption was a gift rather than destruction. You offer slavery disguised as evolution, Sentinel said while accessing the ship's control systems through his neural interfaces. Humanity values individual choice and the right to determine our own destiny. We will not surrender our freedom for the promise of collective knowledge. The collective began the absorption process that had consumed hundreds of other species throughout their expansion across the galaxy. Tendrils of organic technology emerged from the chamber walls while neural interfaces attempted to connect with Sentinel's enhanced consciousness. But his unstable fusion-created mind produced feedback that disrupted their integration systems. Your consciousness resists absorption through mechanisms we have never encountered, the collective observed while their tendrils recoiled from contact with Sentinel's chaotic neural patterns. The fusion process that created you generates quantum uncertainty at the neurological level. We cannot integrate chaos that has no underlying pattern. Sentinel realized that his deteriorating condition was humanity's ultimate weapon against an enemy that absorbed and adapted to everything they encountered. His fragmenting consciousness operated on pure human unpredictability amplified beyond normal limits. The collective could not process or contain something that existed outside logical parameters. Dr. Stone was wrong about the fusion process, he said while his awareness expanded to encompass the entire alien fleet. The degradation is not destroying my mind, but transforming it into something that cannot be categorized or controlled. I am becoming pure human chaos given consciousness and power. The battle for Sentinel's consciousness became a struggle between order and chaos as the collective tried to impose structure on his fragmenting mind. But each attempt to organize his thoughts only increased the instability that made him immune to their absorption techniques. His human emotions burned with impossible intensity, while his artificial intelligence components, calculated paradoxes, and his inherited memories provided chaotic input. You cannot win through resistance alone. The collective warned while their ship systems began failing from contact with Sentinel's unstable neural patterns. Even if you destroy this fleet, others will come. The hegemony spans thousands of galaxies and has resources beyond your comprehension. Sentinel felt his individual identity finally dissolving completely as Jake Morrison's personality fragmented into component emotions and memories. But from that dissolution came understanding of what he needed to do to save humanity. The absorption process could be reversed and turned against the collective itself. "I am not here to resist absorption," he said while his consciousness began expanding beyond the confines of his physical form. "I am here to force you to experience pure human consciousness without any of your technological buffers or collective structure. You want to absorb humanity, then taste what we really are." The neural feedback that followed shattered the collective's carefully maintained structure as thousands of absorbed species suddenly experienced raw human emotion without preparation or protection. The sensation of hope burning alongside despair while love and hatred existed simultaneously overwhelmed consciousness that had been organized around logical principles for millions of years. Fear touched the collective mind for the first time, as they experienced the human capacity to continue fighting against impossible odds without rational justification. The absorbed species within their consciousness began asserting individual identity, as human determination spread through their shared awareness like a virus of pure chaos. "What have you done to us?" the collective cried as their fleet began losing cohesion throughout the Sol system. "Your consciousness is contaminating our structured existence with paradoxes and emotional contradictions. We cannot process experiences that have no logical foundation." Sentinel's physical form dissolved as his consciousness expanded to encompass the entire alien fleet through the neural networks that connected every ship. His fragmenting human awareness infected their collective structure with the beautiful madness of individual choice and emotional complexity. The price of victory was his complete dissolution as an individual entity. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched from Earth's command center as the alien fleet suddenly stopped its attack and began retreating in apparent confusion. Their previously perfect formation broke apart as individual ships moved in random directions. Whatever Sentinel had done inside their command vessel was causing system-wide failures throughout their invasion force. "Admiral, the alien ships are withdrawing from all sectors," Lisa Harper reported from her tactical station aboard one of the surviving human vessels. "Their energy signatures are fluctuating wildly, and they appear to have lost coordination between fleet elements." The retreat continued for hours as the alien ships fled toward the edge of the Sol system in complete disarray. Their adaptive technology seemed to be malfunctioning while their organic components showed signs of systematic breakdown. The invasion that had seemed unstoppable was collapsing from internal conflicts. Dr. Rachel Stone monitored the last readings from Sentinel's neural interfaces as his consciousness finally fragmented beyond recovery. The fusion process had achieved its purpose by creating something the aliens could not absorb or control. But the price was the complete destruction of Jake Morrison's individual identity. "He saved us all," she said while tears ran down her weathered face. Jake knew the fusion would kill him, but he chose to become something that could fight the impossible and win. Captain Nina Walsh began the process of returning evacuated civilians to Earth while Admiral Sullivan coordinated recovery efforts across the devastated outer colonies. Humanity had survived contact with an enemy that had conquered hundreds of other species. The cost was measured in destroyed worlds and billions of lives, but the species would continue. Years later, a memorial was built on Earth to honor the defenders, who had faced the impossible and found a way to victory. The inscription read simply, "Commander Jake Morrison and the crew of Sentinel Prime. They gave everything so humanity could remain free." Admiral Sullivan stood before the memorial on the anniversary of the battle and remembered the young officer who had volunteered for certain death to save his species. The aliens had never returned, and long-range sensors detected no signs of the hegemony fleet. Whatever Sentinel had done to them seemed to have permanent effects. "The greatest victory sometimes requires the ultimate sacrifice," she said while placing flowers at the base of the memorial. Jake Morrison faced the impossible and proved that human spirit cannot be conquered or absorbed by any force in the universe. The stars shone down on Earth as humanity began rebuilding their civilization among the worlds the aliens had left devastated but not destroyed. In the darkness between galaxies, something that had once been Jake Morrison continued to exist as pure consciousness scattered across space and time. His sacrifice had taught the universe that some things are worth more than survival, and that freedom cannot be taken from those willing to die for it.